You're good.
Good.
I get to see.
Okay, we're good.
My recent.
That, sorry about any technical difficulties. I will at 6:34 and we will call the July 9th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. With that, we will go into roll call. I'm Kathy Brandt Rucker. Commissioner John Evans will not be here this evening. Commissioner Grant Koser will not be here this evening. Commissioner Jim Phelps.
There.
Great. Commissioner Justin Reestor.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott Sorensen.
Here.
Wonderful. And Commissioner Daniel Spring.
Here.
Thank you. I do just check if we've got staff here. Evan Munson from Stantec.
Online, yeah.
Okay, we'll just watch. He may join us. Joe Palin from Stantec, their engineer. And any other city staff members present? All right, seeing none, we will move on. Does anyone have changes for this evening's agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay,
Second.
we got a first, we got a second there. Thank you. All in favor of approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign? And our agenda is set for this evening. With that, moving on, I did make a note, we don't have any minutes currently available. I do know, I'm not sure where we're at as far as progress on the minutes of prior meetings, but Mel did catch me and say she is trying some new software and she thinks she might be able to pull them from the recordings that are out there and available. So she did have that and I will follow up with her tomorrow on that piece.
Okay.
Just a warning to everybody, when we do get those minutes, there will be a bunch to approve at some point. We don't have any public hearings scheduled for this month. I do expect we may have one next month, just to put everybody on alert there. But with that, we do have a presentation this evening. They did ask, we have People's Energy Cooperative here, and there is an untitled future development. With that, if there's no objection, I'm just gonna turn the floor over to you guys if you wanna give an intro, and we're happy to listen in tonight. We appreciate the opportunity. And for those watching, this is just an informational session. There is nothing that we'll be approving or denying, and we appreciate folks and groups that wanna come out in advance and give us a little sneak peek at what you're thinking, so.
Do you understand?
You sure can stand at the podium if you're more comfortable, sure.
So good evening, those of you who don't remember or weren't here, my name is Marty Walsh. I am the Economic Development and Key Accounts Manager for People's Energy Cooperative. So we are your member-owned electric cooperative. And a few years ago, when the city was opening up the wastewater treatment plant, we were able to convert our septic system for the Orinoco Crossings development. We were able to abandon the septic system and connect to the city's wastewater plant, which, thank you, that's wonderful. Which left us with a 5.5 more or less acre lot on the north end of our Orinoco Crossings development, which if you're either haven't been around long enough or can't recall, when the co-op moved here in 2012, we purchased 170 acres, developed that to what is now the Casey's, the RV dealerships, our office, and then septic system was the lot that is kind of encircled by the split rail white fence just south of the ball field park over there. When that parcel became available, we no longer needed for the septic system. We did some internal discussions on what would be the highest and best use for the cooperative for our members, especially recognizing that with its shape, it would be difficult, not likely to attract a lot of commercial development. We'd also sat on lots for 10 plus years and knew that there was varying appetite for that sort of thing. And recognizing also that the region, Olmsted County in particular, has a significant housing shortage, and that is currently constraining our ability to grow beyond where we're at economically. So commercial load even is restricted by available workforce is restricted by housing. And so we started looking at what could we do with that property to maybe do something unique, take a unique asset and do a unique project, landed on housing. And so I came to the Planning and Zoning Committee about 18 months ago. I should have looked at my calendar to double check, and kind of gave a heads up. And we looked at what could be achieved with some reasonable density increases, identifying what property taxes might look like in Olmsted County with similar projects. I'm looking at $50,000 to $100,000 potentially in new property taxes to the city. as well as looking at wastewater and water fees that would likely be generated. I think we identified that, I'm not being specific because now we have specific projects, so I don't want to encumber them with our concepts, but looking at $1 to $1.5 million in additional revenue over the next 10 years for the city of Orinoco, if we could do maybe something in the 10 to 12 unit per acre density on those properties. We understood we weren't obligating anybody to anything, but we then put out an RFP and we solicited some development ideas from some folks, and we're doing that concurrent with the zoning rewrite process. We had 2 developers that we selected to move forward with. In the meantime, we've actually switched 2 of those developers. One of them has stepped out of the project. They had some other priorities they were working on, but within a very similar time frame, we had somebody kind of come late to the party, and so we still have 2 people for you today. The objective today is talk about some of the potential development ideas that these developers are looking at on that property. No decisions have been made, no transactions have been made, no zoning requests, rezoning requests have been made. So what I'd like to do is have each of these 2 gentlemen speak for about 10 minutes, have it be a barely back and forth conversation. So if you have questions, but they also may have questions for you of what the city's interested in. One of our objectives here beyond adding to the tax base is also just understanding the development process and what's viable in the communities we serve. We serve 9 communities in southeastern Minnesota that we'd like to all see be successful in growing their housing base as well. Before I get started, any of you have, or before these gentlemen get started, do you have any questions for me?
And
Yeah,
just, oh, go ahead. I was just gonna say, for anybody that's watching online or watching the recording later, just of the 9 communities you serve, just so everyone's aware, your headquarters, your office actually is located in Orinoco, which is where this land is right now to
Perfect.
that office area, just for clarification for everybody here. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
people
so
can
yeah, so
understand
that's
that.
why we own the land. We do own some land in Elgin that we're selling the last of also. And so this is lots of real estate going on at the co-op office the last couple of weeks. The other thing I'll say is that we did have some preliminary conversations with city staff, Administrator Baker, and then also Joe Phelan and Evan, just on what some of the ideas are out there, but recognizing that those were just, is there major issues that we were unaware of, we weren't thinking of? But we've talked about some about the DWISMA issues with water infiltration. How do we want to deal with that? Because we're right between your 2 wells. What work needs to go on with any potential annexation or water service that's required for the 17 lots to the west of this property. And again, no decisions are out there. So we're very open to figure out if there's a way that this development could maybe facilitate any work that needs to happen around anything else. So
Thank you. Justin, did you have a question?
I guess the only question that I have as we go along with that, and those 17 units that are to the west are part of the township. Is the township going to be involved with us, being notified of what's going on and their input that there is with that?
only if that's a requirement of the city. We've been told that, which is the city decision, a city project, including with the water there. But if that was a request, I think there'd be no problem with reaching out to them and as part of the zoning process.
Yeah, well, the only thing is normally within like 500 feet of what there is on our zoning that we normally have with that. And of course, all of those people that there are behind there and in that would be in that range. And
Yeah.
that's part of what we have for code,
Is,
you know.
do you know, is the intent to annex that with the water service, or will it remain in the township?
It's a friendly annexation agreement, Ryland, if I'm correct off of that. And so they have to come to us where we can't go to them.
Can you require annexation to provide water service?
I don't, Ryland, do you know it?
It requires annexation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean,
Typically, they
again,
would reach out, petition to be annexed.
Yeah.
And that's when the water, my understanding, would go through.
and then, I mean, we've kind of looked at it down the road on some things in the future, but I mean, it's right at this point. I'm just, you know, kind of curious because I think that,
Yeah, those are our, the benefit here is that those are our members also, so we definitely have an interest in making.
yeah, and I think it would just be wise to involve them
Yeah.
with whatever there is for that and get their input in it too, because it's going to affect their housing values as well.
Mhm.
And whatever comes of all this, there would most likely be a public hearing, and that would be their opportunity, because even though they are living in technically the township, they're surrounded by the city, they'd be next to this, and they would be within so many feet as far as that notification of a public hearing, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And that reminded me, I think the other point is, based on maybe the discussion tonight, our next step will pursue the rezoning, whether it be to R2 or development flex or whatever is the appropriate party after. That's kind of our intent for the next step. And I think that a lot of that will come up as part of that process.
Well, thank you. Any other questions up front, or we'll let you kick it off?
I'm going to alphabetical order, which is you. Okay, I didn't discuss that part.
Would you like me standing or sit and talk, or?
Whatever's
Yeah,
most
sure.
comfortable for you there. You're-
I'm real happy just sitting and chatting, if that's all right.
Worked. Did I do a point? Nancy, the safety phone got to work today. Thank you.
So, I'm Jamie Judish. I'm a developer. We're mostly in southern Minnesota, mostly southeastern. And I live in the township. And so when this came up, I was very interested because
Oh, 1 second. Evan's in the waiting room. Yes.
Oh, we better let Evan in. So I live in the township and I've always wanted to do something in Orinoco and it's never come together. And when this opportunity came about quite some time ago now, we responded and we took a look at it. Love working in the smaller communities. My group built the downtown apartment building in Pine Island. That's what the city council wanted there. That's how that one came together. We just opened last week, a 39 unit building in Casson. Right next to the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school, right in between all three. We've got a townhome development going on in Eota currently. And just, anyway, Rochester's great, but I'll work in any of the surrounding towns in a minute before Rochester if given the opportunity. So with that, this site, it's a complicated site because of its limited depth. We've had we usually use G-Cubed as our engineer. They took a cursory look at it. There may be some easement challenges and everything else, so there may need to be some horse trading or other things that come together to make it all fit and work, but we think the site lends itself based on its physical characteristics and its location to kind of medium density. And we just have some things shown that fit. So if there's an interest, if it's about maximizing density, we could just keep putting down small buildings. So one of the things too, whatever we put in, we're big on sight lines, view corridors, and keeping green space. So yes, you're always looking for higher density because that's the only way to make anything pencil out, but we still want it to be attractive. So we want it to look nice from the road, but we also want it to look nice. Nothing's ever nice enough for neighbors when you put something new in, but we want it to look nice that direction. And we want to make it an appealing place for people to actually live. It's not housing for the sake of housing, but it should be something that has pride in ownership and that stays well maintained, and the HOA and everything that'll have to be formed would take care of that. So we are wide open. We could do apartment buildings that are small. This footprint is for a 32 unit building that's shown on the south end of the site. We've got some townhomes down that lay out well. We can do different mixes of townhomes. We could do bigger buildings if there was an appetite for it. I mean, really, we're wide open. Typically, when it come into a community, it's sitting down, it's having these meetings. I know there's been resistance to multifamily in Orinoco in the past. That still may be the case. That's fine. We don't really have an agenda. It's really more about, it's your land, what makes you happy. It's your city, what makes you happy. What's the best, highest use to come together that kind of checks everybody's boxes, and we're ready to basically go. I think we have a group that's more or less together. We'd be starting a new ownership entity, whatever it looked like, whether it's for sale, probably for sale, or if there are any rentals. But I think we have a group of investors ready to go. We've got architects, engineers, everybody's pretty much ready. So if we could kind of come to terms as to what everybody wanted, get it figured out, our plan would probably be to break ground in the spring. As far as concerns and things, I don't have detailed geotechnical, but I think there's a whole pile of black dirt sitting on that site. So if there's any opportunities to relocate some of that dirt and some of these other things, that would be nice. And I know we're gonna have a lot to figure out about pulling utilities into the individual units, how we best do that without disrupting, which is Lake Shady Avenue too much, because that's an expensive road to dig into. And so we'd wanna figure out how to minimize that exposure in terms of inconvenience for people and cost. But otherwise, we think it's all eminently doable, and it's just really a matter of what is the mix. Also, when DBS was looking at this one, they had a higher density play. That was fine. They only were interested in half the site. That was fine. We were interested then in taking the other and doing something that would be a lower density. Have been working with the Rochester Area Coalition recently. They're working with us right now on, we've got 36 units of fourplex townhomes that are going in EOTA. And with the coalition, they're pushing for owner occupied housing. And very on board with potentially bringing them in. If they, again, what do people want to do? So it's not Section 8, it's not anything else, but essentially we use their funds to buy down the infrastructure cost and carry, and then we repay them with each unit sale. But not having to have all that extra capital in and the interest on it saved us probably close to 20,000 a unit when it comes time to sell. And so we pass those savings on then to the end user.
I think I've seen some of those, and this is just a quick question, where the HOA as it's set up actually puts stipulations in there that they have to be owner occupied, or they can't be like an Airbnb rental.
For 5 years.
Yeah, for a period of time, whatever it might be.
And that's the stipulation set forth by the coalition.
Okay, yeah, that's what I've seen, similar housing. So it's not, we're putting up a giant rental apartment building, there's owner occupied units.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
okay.
we're really happy with any of it. We have a lot of rental units that we built that we hold. We've got management company. We don't have our own management company, but we have those that we partner with. So we're happy to mix and match and just figure out what makes the most sense. But I'm a huge fan for community's sake to do owner occupied housing where we can. Because I think that's the best for the long term.
The one thing that I see is going to 3 stories is going to be an issue in this town. We just don't have the fire department to be able to handle that with 3 stories. We can only do 2. Okay, so that's gonna be an issue.
We probably let the fire department address that, don't you?
But I mean,
Because with the current,
I can say right now, you're
Yeah.
probably gonna have a very difficult time with the 3-story
yeah,
high density type housing situation.
we don't currently have a ladder truck.
And are you locked in at that 5-year? After that, it can be rented as Airbnb, that type of situation? Or is it
This
something where if
isn't,
it's,
this isn't anything I'm setting. This is just the terms set forth with to use funding. The terms we agreed to use funding from the coalition.
Got it.
They do it as a case by case.
Okay,
Jo Marie Morris just retired. And when she was kind of pushing everything forward, they had very specific goals that they'd laid out, and we were, I think, their 3rd or 4th project. So they sort of had a framework, but I haven't seen the other agreements, but I was told they were all sort of similar, but tailored for the individual needs of the site and the project.
Mhm.
I'm meeting now with Ryan, he's the head, I think the new head, tomorrow. Can't remember his name, or Ryan with the C.
Yeah, it's like a hard C sound.
Anyway, I'm meeting him tomorrow at the EOTA site so he can tour it and see it, and we'll find out what their directives are going forward. But I gotta believe that with Mayo and Olmsted County being involved, and Dave Dunn is still involved as far as I know, that
They all
owner
have seats
occupied
on that
housing is still the
commission.
primary focus. So, I mean,
you just see a better investment in the community.
I think so. Well, it depends. When we do rentals, we really maintain our stuff, because the minute it gets scuzzy, you can't, it doesn't make sense anymore. So like, I don't have any concern when we put a rental community together, but generally speaking, I mean, owner occupied tends to do well, but at the same time, with something like this, you need to have the right HOA structure, and you have to have people that are diligent, that are staying on it, and enforcements for it. And HOAs are often a 4-letter word, and so we try to keep that. We try to keep it as much in its lane as possible, but once people take it over, they can essentially do what they will with it.
Mhm.
But when you set up the right framework, it tends to carry forward pretty well.
So I think that Elias question might be the same for both developers, so I want to end up giving Grant a chance to kind of run through his project also. Is that, are you all right with
Yeah,
that?
no, that's fine.
And one thing I'll pass this out for you. One thing I'll say about the water access is I had a very preliminary conversation with Joe. The thought was, knowing that eventually there'd be a need to access water, it'd probably come off 12th, which is the street on the north side there. That would be needed to access for the township houses, that that'd be an opportunity to coordinate on making sure that whatever was installed could work for both, so we wouldn't have to dig twice. So just a relevant thought on that.
One thing, if I may. Density, when it comes to property taxes and paying for treatment plants and everything, is the best friend you're ever going to have. When done right, can also be terrible when done wrong, but without having to do a big investment in a ladder truck, we have done taller buildings that have attachment points and things that are all done and approved with the fire departments. So they know exactly what it is. They have keys to everything. And they know that if they need to access parts of it, they have the ability to do it. And that's designed in. So not to say they'd go along with it and agree, but it's becoming more common practice, because it doesn't make sense for a smaller community to go buy what is a truck now, $500,000 truck for one.
No, they're 1.2 million. plus.
Okay, $1.2 million.
Way above that, so.
Okay, so yes, even worse. So there are ways of getting around it and making it work potentially. But they just have to be well vetted early on in the process to see if it makes sense or not.
And again, just as what we looked at as a community, so you're aware. We're not looking at heavy density units inside of this town. You know, we just want this to be the town the way it is, and we just went through and our minimum lot size is 13,000 square feet. So it gives you some idea where the direction of everybody in the city wants to go. You know, and so, I mean, going in and trying to have too tight of a structure is not necessarily the way the residents in this town want it to be, just so.
But like I said,
You're
we're
aware,
happy with
so.
anything. We could even break this out into individual single family lots.
No, I'm just, you know, just to give you some idea and
Yep.
direction of what we're talking about, because that's just the way the community wants to look, and, you know, we don't.
We like the look and the feel of the single family, but I will tell you, just from having rewritten the city code in the last year, all the work that we did, talking to all the community members as we did that for months on end and having different focus groups and meetings, that there is a need for some type of housing that is not strictly your single family, 5-bedroom, 3 to 5 bedroom, because we do have a lot of adult children that live in town and would like to continue to live in town. And we have different folks that have approached me that are, you know, looking for moving out of the 3 to 5 bedroom home and looking for different residences that they maybe, as they age or go through family transitions, are looking for just a 2-bedroom. And so I do know that there is a need for some of this type of mixed housing. As we look at it here on the paper, it says, you know, one to 2 units or 2 to 3 bedrooms, and then, you know, some looks like on the paper here, 32 units, it says, in 3 stories. And again, like we said, we don't have a ladder truck, but that would be a discussion with the fire department involved.
Well, and again, these are just ideas that
Yeah.
fit and kind of how things lay on the site.
And we don't want to add $1.5 million to the cost of your development so we can buy a ladder truck, but we sure would love to if you really.
We need a lot of incentives.
Yeah.
No, and looking at those units, again, you know, with like Kathy was saying, you know, those look really good. The only thing I'm looking at is the apartment thing. It's kind of, and that's just
It's
the part. We
paper.
haven't listened to you. Okay, so next, and we'll,
Let's launch it. Grant.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Washnock, I'm living in Brandon, South Dakota, over by Sioux Falls. And, let's see, how it kind of all started is I have farmland that we've owned for 40 years up in Aberdeen. So we're doing a 1031, so we're selling it and buying land and doing developments and stuff. In fact, I've got 43 acres across the road here, actually right here. I own that piece there. So we'll see each other again.
Oh, okay, okay, very good.
So, but anyway, that's just a little of the background. And I was looking more at a retirement community.
Okay.
And in a sense, just kind of work with the Craftsman to come up with some different options. Initially, the first one was one large building, 3-story, potentially as an option, and a community center or a group area at the end. Use that. That's and then so that'd be one option, or it could be a 2-story also, and with attached garages there. So that'd be the initial thought, and then the other options is the next one is where, in a sense, you break that down and you have 5 or 6. Well, yeah, plexes are, and now initially it was drawn for 3-story, but you could do it as 2-story also with attached garages and then a community building at the end also. And then the last two is showing potential like 4-plexes for retirement community. And this is where each person or each couple or family or whoever would in the retirement community would have their own garage, their own front door, wouldn't have any steps. With that, and that's that one, and then the next one also was probably actually a better solution because of the elevations and stuff along on that site.
So would those be owner occupied is what you're looking?
Well, these would be, I would end up owning them. It'd be a retirement community where they rent from me.
Or would there be an age restriction after that?
Yeah, it'd be something like 55 or 60, something like that.
You'd run that with an HOA the same way, or would you have it, how would you run that to be able to maintain it, to keep it where? Because I mean, when you look at it, you go down 52, that's the first thing that you see that there is, that's part of the city, and that, so I mean, you want something that's gonna look good, that there is and welcoming to the city.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Looking in campers.
Oh, you can still see the campers, but you'll.
Well, I
still
know,
be
I'm
able
thinking
to
the first
say-
thing that you see is
Yeah.
nobody campers.
Like, that's what everybody sees in the distance right now.
So it would probably have a third party contract with some third party to manage it and to maintain it.
I know one of the things that's come up in the past is we look at the one development that's looking at getting started right now across from Two Sisters. Is we were looking also on snow removal and all that part of what there is. Would you take care of all of that type of stuff that goes?
Lawn care, that's when people are in a retirement, they don't want any of the lawn care, none of the snow removal.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
No, I just,
But yeah.
that's one of those things that came in.
And you'd have rules where their patios, you can have, maybe you can have a grill and stuff, but not excessive.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So are all your plans in that idea that you would be the renter for whatever of those plans you're showing us right now?
Right, the owner, yeah.
I have to say that I think that the retirement community could fit a lot better than large apartment buildings. It fills two niches and it's needed right now. In the city, the things that have been asked for. So logistically speaking, I like that, the lower buildings with, that are more directed towards I saw you have potential.
Which, so not the giant building,
Right.
but the second one.
I mean, I don't know what that would look, it's more than 11 buildings.
Probably the second one.
Well, it was more than 11, but the logistics of coming off driveways off of Elm, with it not being in the city, that would be probably a hang up for that.
We don't know if, yeah.
The second to the last with the 11 buildings, are they approximately the same number of units between 11 buildings and?
Think, and it's however you lay it out, the very last one, the last one has 11 and the other one, this one has 14 or something like that.
But, yeah. Yeah,
And it all, yeah, how it over works out.
but those would be zero entry.
Yeah.
It sounds like almost potential for not quite assisted living facility, but like
Right,
stepping
that's kind
into
of what
that.
I was hoping for, a retirement community, but for myself, my grandmother was in a apartment complex before, and they had meals each day. And it was someone to check, it's a way for someone, a nurse to check on them,
Yeah,
you know, and that's all it, you kind of, you know, it'd be just that very basic piece.
okay.
Or, and this is me thinking out loud, kind of, or also maybe a memory care, if we could, that's probably 8 steps down the road,
Yeah.
or maybe on another property, where, hey, a couple, someone has a problem, they drop them off at the adult daycare, but then they're back home. And both those, it's a lot less, you don't have as high a skilled person taking care of them.
Yeah.
And regulations and everything else.
Yeah, so you-
Like I said, jumping into nursing care in Minnesota is a
Yeah,
very different conversation than.
okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I think that a level of, there's probably some gray area there.
But I could see where this would be definitely a plus, that type of
I
situation.
like the idea of
I do too.
the zero entry, the accessible living.
Yeah.
I do know there's a big need for all ages, so I, think twice about throwing an age limit on there. But that's just because of probably some of the folks that are in the circles I go, where there's the T-ball crowd that's out there playing, and there are other mothers and fathers out there that, like I said, are looking through family changes and still looking for some housing needs that might fit their sizes of their families as they change and grow. So both of the concepts, I think, lay out pretty good examples of what they would look like.
So it's just
One of the things I could say, though, that did come up when we've gone through other discussions and had hearings, is making sure that the roads that we do put through here are accessible to emergency equipment, emergency vehicles, making sure that the turning radiuses would fit what's needed on the corners, making sure that the sight lines are visible so that we're not blocking on corners sight line wise. Those are definitely some of the discussions that we've had previously come up. And as you guys all mentioned, making sure that our city services can service appropriately. So if we do have a 5-story building, not that there's nothing here that says 5, it says 3, but that we have equipment that could take care of our citizens that are living in all stories of all buildings.
Yeah, whether it's designed into the building.
One way or the other, yeah.
Whether it's
You would-
designed into the building.
Probably the other thing I've heard mentioned when we were talking senior housing on prior developments that ended up being more mixed use is that, senior housing making sure that you've got a main floor bedroom if there's a senior housing, that you don't call it senior housing and put all the bedrooms on the second floor. You don't call it senior housing and just do a single very tiny garage. You, even with some of the smaller garages, you do a 2-car garage because that'll fit your car and a deep freeze or 2 very small cars. So I do know that that has come up in discussions before as well, just functional housing.
Mhm.
So. Any questions from up front here remaining?
Good discussion.
Dustin?
I do have a couple questions. So I guess Orinoco has found out the hard way already when it's owned by one individual. So I guess I have concerns with that side of it, just being because it's like Orinoco Estates and what we're dealing with there. I'm sure we were assured that it'd be upkept and they'd pay their bills on time and that it would stay in a certain demographic of like 55 or older, whatever it might have been when they decided that, and we're dealing with issues there too now. And so I'm concerned on the reassurance of keeping it at 55, if that's what we're gonna market it as for long term.
Mhm.
And then, going to your housing projection right now, the 12 unit side, that looks a little bit more feasible than stacked apartment buildings. We've dealt with this already on the other side where they don't want apartment buildings here. And so coming up with solutions that probably meet that better is gonna be your best bet moving forward.
Mhm.
And there's just a lot of concern when it comes to one individual owning all of these. Because you may be very diligent in it,
Right,
but
right.
all of a sudden, whatever it might be, you
So
move
was
to
the
Florida.
Problem with the other one was the business model. Did the business model fail or was it a management failure or all the above?
It could have been all
All
of
of
the
the
above. And so that's where we have that single source of failure, right? Where if we have owners invested and then the city is able to enforce code, maybe that's something that we compensate for, but I can see that being a concern.
The nice thing with the 4-block, you can roll them out potentially too, as the demand is needed.
All right,
Yeah.
any other
With
questions or?
With this drawing here with all of these multi-story buildings. Like, I know this is just a rough draft, but like
All we did was-
feasibility, like, are you needing to go higher? Like, what is the square footage that either of you are looking for? For like a single unit on 1 story?
For us, we're not really presenting anything. We're just showing ideas that fit.
Concepts
Okay.
tonight.
So, I mean, I think given the location and over by Two Sisters, that's Dragon's project, isn't it? I mean, we would be slotting underneath, I've seen his, but I can't remember what their square footages are, but weren't those starting in like the 450 to 500 range? So I mean, we'd be looking to slot if they were for sale units, we'd be slotting below that. So something very nice, it could be, a mix of 4-plex units with 1 car, like a big 1-car garage. That's what we're doing in Eota. We could do 2-car garages, somewhere probably in the 1150 to 1600, maybe 1700 square foot per unit range, depending. Part of it on like the townhomes and things depends on what is your driving factor. If we want to keep costs down and if we want to have units that can potentially sell in the low 300s, we can do really nice units, but we have to go 2 levels. We just can't, once you start spreading out your roofing and foundation costs, it almost automatically throws you into 400 grand anymore. So it's figuring out that mix of what do you in the community want to see? Because we can build all of it and I think we can be profitable doing all of it where it makes sense. It's just, what is it that you as a community want? So, but I like that probably 3 to 400, maybe 3 to 4.25 as an operating price range if we're doing them for sale. But we can also do a mix of rentals and stuff too, depending. And when we do this kind of rental housing, we always do them all as individual PIDs so that they can be sold to owners or they can rent to own or other and be owner occupied in time.
Well, appreciate it.
Oh, with the 3-story, is it so it's almost a technical problem with
It's a
fire?
technical problem.
And then it also it's kind of it's outside of what the community wants
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
Kind of want, and
You could watch the other meetings when those discussions happen.
flow.
It doesn't go well.
Slow, but goods,
Yeah,
kind of
right now,
building
if
the.
we brought a
community.
3-story building in, it would be very difficult without additional cost to the developer because we don't have a ladder truck and
Right.
then we don't have a building to hold the ladder
You
truck
wouldn't-
and so.
You wouldn't have an agreement with another fire.
We do have mutual aid agreements actually.
Yeah, but I
But-
don't.
But we'd prefer to phase things out front and figure out how we can use our resources here appropriately, so. Make sure that whatever we do bring in, we can support.
So if I supply a ladder truck, are you gonna support 4-story apartments?
No, no, not if it's found, it won't work. No, it's not what the town wants. Okay, that's not, and, you know, people have been pretty straightforward with that, you know, that's why you're looking at the lot sizes, where the lot sizes are set at 13,000. You know, that's the smallest. You know, so that's just the way the people want to be. That's what we want our community to look like. We want it to be this way.
I think the big thing moving forward is it needs to somewhat match the current scheme of the city, right? And also, if we have to deviate from that slightly, then it's meeting and filling a niche that we're after. Whether it be lower price housing for adult kids or semi-assisted living retirement community. Like, I think that it really, those are the key things from my perspective, is that it should blend well with what's happening now, and it meets one of the missing pieces that we have right now.
I think with the demographics in our town, when we talk about a population going from cradle to grave, we do really, really well in the middle. Really well.
Yeah.
What we don't do is that young adult, we don't do take care of our seniors. I mean, those are some of the niches that we really struggle with in this town, that as you have adult children, they're having to move out of town temporarily until they get more established and they, you know, so those are some of the transitional housing needs, if you want to think of it that way.
I've heard some people that, hey, there's a lot of people that are in houses that want to move out of it. You know,
Yes.
If it's just a couple.
Yes, no, I also hear that sitting on, I know city staff also they do receive calls from time to time wondering about townhouses, wondering about the development, wondering what's gonna be
Yeah.
coming in,
The
so.
R2 is a part of what we want to do. The other thing to keep in mind too, is if you want an apartment, 2 miles down the road, you can go through all the apartments you want, okay? And they're even building more of them, you know? You know, so you want apartments? You could, but for us to be able to have what we want the look of the city to be is what we really want to look at, you know?
And all of
It
that-
keeps the values up to where we
Yeah,
want
and I don't know that we're against apartments or for apartments but I
Right,
think
just-
just the population in town right now, that's what we've heard for feedback.
No, we just brought it up because we know what these apartments do for the taxes in the community. And it's, Orinoco may be the exception, but most of the communities around are all fighting their budgets. And,
And
so
we-
it makes a huge, when you do it, but that's why you gotta do it right.
Yeah,
And I
and-
have seen properties that are well maintained. I haven't toured the one on Pine Island, but I've certainly seen the pictures inside as it was being developed.
We sold that, 2 years ago, but we sold it to a well-established group that I was in it maybe 6 months ago and they're doing a really
I've
nice
seen that
job.
one and I've seen the development even in Rochester where it's actually single family houses, but it's a rental community of single family houses. That's very nicely done as well. They, yeah, it's over on the west side over there by,
Teens.
Yeah.
Teens.
so I've seen that one and I have toured some of those as well. But the property management is key on anything there and that can make or break any particular community, whether it's a retirement community or not a retirement community, any type of housing. And along with that, I think having a strong HOA drafted to go with all of this would certainly help protect our city growth when you talk about what do we want the look and feel and what we heard from all the feedback working on the zoning ordinance. So I do appreciate everybody coming here and giving us your time, bringing us your ideas. We know this is just concepts and ideas and we appreciate that. So
So thank you all very much. We'll probably, we can visit on the hallway, guys. But I think the last couple of things, we'll come back soon with the zoning request likely. And again, just in talking to Joe and Evan, we'll probably at that point talk about some of the potential, whether we might seek a variance or a setback or orienting setback certain ways because of the unique shape of that lot. And I know one of the things we talked about was when DOT granted the city Lake Shady Avenue, it is a far wider than necessary right of way. And because there will be a need for right of way on the Elm Street side when it is eventually annexed, staff proposed potentially a swap of 20 feet on each, like shift our lot over 20 feet or something, which gives you the ability to do a to-code road for Elm Street without encumbering Lake Shady Avenue. That is a far more technical conversation, but we have skirted around the edge of those and we have considered some of those. We'll want to revisit as well.
But for any project, it makes life a lot easier, as we were looking at it with the engineer.
So,
I will let you guys continue on those technical details. Please enjoy those. We will look forward to a future meeting at some point where there's more discussion and potentially an application or some other documentation for us to review. But we do appreciate the concepts and the drafts, and what I will do is I've got my 2 copies that I will give to the city here so they can scan them in and just put it out with our other information on the website. So if that's okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll take a just brief moment here to reset. I'll give these to Mel and then she can scan them in. That's okay. Or I'll scan them in and maybe I'll just email them to Mel and she can get them posted. All right, well, I appreciate everybody coming tonight to listen to the presentation. Like I said, there is no application. They are still in the process of trying to figure out even which developer they want to go with, but I know we've gotten a lot of feedback from the city and residents over the last year, so. Next, I had just new business. I have no additional information on this one for this evening, but just as an FYI to everybody, that one of the owners had approached the city. There's just potential development discussion going on that they are looking at. We may see something at our August meeting. I don't know if there will be a presentation, a hearing. I really don't have any details, but some land at 710 Minnesota Avenue. There's some more just down the road going towards past Dollar General down that way. So just
Is that in front of the storage areas between that
it's
and
just a little further down past that, I believe. But yeah, it's down in that neck of the woods. So just,
on that side,
yeah,
on the west side?
yep, just something more. I know that there was just a little bit of discussion and I'm not sure quite where they're sitting on that. I have not been in on any of those discussions, but just that there's just some talk there. So maybe it'll be more of a conversation like this next month, or maybe there will be something on paper for us to actually take a look at. But just when I hear about things, like I said, on some of this other stuff, I just like to keep it on the agenda one way or the other, so things don't just drop off into nowhere. I'd like to keep them out there. So one way or the other, that will either be some kind of discussion next month, or it might be at the bottom under old business, just for us to keep our eye on it and so somebody's watching for it. Next, we have under old business, moving on, officer position elections. We are 2 people short for this month, so we, have a couple choices. One, we can delay it till we do have everybody here. We can go ahead and we need a vice chair. We could really use a secretary to help with the minutes, and we've got some potential software to help with that, so that might make the secretary role easier, more attractive. I guess there's always the other option that you take in many meetings is the people who are not present end up with new titles, but don't seem real fair to do that. So any thoughts if we want to delay a month or?
Let's put it out to everybody's here.
Okay, we'll do that. Next, we do have progress on the RFP draft. I know the thought process there, initially, we had said we were looking to do something to support our zoning services. It's been many years. We're going kind of on a rolling contract that has not been reviewed for many, many years. And just to make sure we're using our taxpayer dollars wisely, we talked about taking a look at that. You guys were gonna take that back to city, and my understanding was maybe look at a bigger review of all of that to roll in some of the other potential services that go along with that.
In general,
We were gonna do
And are
that.
you
But that's
working?
gonna be delayed for a while.
So we could,
Until we get some staff. Cause staff will be writing any kind of RFP. And right now we don't have the staff to, that was decided, I think, before Jason even left.
Yeah.
That
The staff.
that we would hold off on, that staff would write it, but also that we would hold off on those discussions till later in the year.
cause we were gonna get through Gold Rush first off of that, go
Right,
through
now
our
there's draft
budget
changes.
and our budget, cause we've got our budget that's set up now for our budget meetings that there are, so. With the city, so it'll.
Do you guys want to revisit that decision or talk about if you want? I know we had interest, I believe Grant said he would be interested in helping draft. I know we've leaned on League of Minnesota Cities before when we wrote our last draft RFP.
I think we'll look at,
Do
see
you
who
want-
comes in for staff, cause we did talk a little bit about it, and it was back that the staff was gonna do it instead of Grant, okay,
Okay.
so that's kind of the direction that we had discussed it, so that's.
Okay. Well, if you have any changes, please bring them back, but I'll just leave it on next month to see where our progress is, and it sounds like by next month it'll still be Gold Rush, so
It'll
probably not too much.
Yeah, no, still
Not
no
unless you
preference.
guys change something there. Next, we had just if anybody has any updates on the development of the Pine Southwest, those townhouses over by Two Sisters
I
proposed.
haven't heard anything, and I know John was.
John was gonna maybe check on that, so since he couldn't make it tonight, we don't have an update there. Planning and,
Think about that, Rylan?
So,
About, the Pine Southwest?
the township, or the townhouses, I mean,
They'll be asking for an extension on the CUP,
okay,
another year extension. They still plan to do it, just matter. Their architect passed away last summer, so he's working with a new architect.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
And because of that, it's kind of delayed everything, so they'll come, I think it's gonna be on the agenda to ask for a one-year extension on the CUP.
okay.
Okay,
But they do still plan to actively do it.
No changes to the CUP, just an extension, time extension?
I'm sorry.
No changes to the actual, what was approved, just a time extension?
Have not seen anything other than what we all
Okay.
saw here.
Okay. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
last I saw it too, so I know city staff does get questions on when are those gonna be built. Again, back to that whole issue of multi-generational housing.
yeah, and it's just finances too, you look
Yeah.
at what interest rates are and everything else right now
I
is.
think they would sell, but.
Yeah,
we'll see.
no, I'm just saying it, but you know, for a developer too.
All right, well, if we have any more reports or updates on that next month then. We had talked about putting together some workshops,
I think those were for the RFPs, so
so kind of delayed on those.
those are rolled in with the RFPs, so those will be indefinitely postponed until we get staff.
Okay. We did chat last month about incorporating notices to our other city departments as we get applications and public hearings that come through. I did get the opportunity to talk with Evan. Me and Mel have talked briefly about, working that in. So what I'll probably do is I'll just work with them to make sure that there's a distribution list, so other groups do get included, because I would like Public Works to know
Mhm.
whether it's an application that's come in that we may not see even here at P and Z, but it's good for all those areas to just have notice when things are coming, whether they're commercial or a consumer housing type situation. Code enforcement, we did talk about that, and that's come up probably not every single meeting since I've joined planning and zoning. But for a planning and zoning group, we don't necessarily do the enforcement piece of it here, but one of the thoughts was we look at just code enforcement in general, because some of our code with the planning and zoning, it does come up with CUPs after the fact, if things are enforced or not. Some of our city code actually has enforcement mechanisms written into the coding. And I had talked briefly to Evan on that one as well, and I've talked to others here on P and Z that one of the things you can do is potentially write a section of code that would apply to our planning and zoning if there is nothing that says here is what the enforcement penalty or whatever might be. It would default to this code. And they could write it, should the council want to do it, they could extend it so it covers all city code to whatever it comes out to. That gives you guys at least an enforcement tool to use for the rest
I
of your
think that that's
cities.
good, that we need to look into that
So,
without doubt, you know.
There are definitely,
People are taking advantage of that and figuring that
but there are other
proof that
communities.
nothing gets done, you know.
There's other communities out there that do have something similar, so it's not just a tool then for planning and zoning, but it would be a tool for the rest of council to run with as they see fit,
Absolutely.
so. Evan was gonna maybe check and see if there's some samples or examples or something that we could look at for a future meeting, but it will not be the August meeting, just so everybody's aware, that's probably out there a little bit too. We did have a question that came up, you know, whether there's different towns doing data center moratoriums, different lawsuits, a lot of things out there in the news. With our recent ordinance rewrite that we did adopt, it is in effect. Should we get an application, it would have to go through a process that would require a public hearing before anything would be able to be approved or anything at this point, is my understanding. So there would be a CUP requirement and it would be something that would come in front of here before anything could be approved by city council, and opportunity for all of our residents to give.
And we had a really good session that there was for LMC, talking about data centers. Did you go to that at all, or?
I think I caught part of that. That was the code enforcement, right?
Yeah, and talking about how they come in and delay and everything else that's associated with that. It's throughout Minnesota that's going on right now, that people are trying to get into Minnesota for doing that, but it was just kind of interesting. I've got the notes, you've got the notes too after that maybe we
Something
can
maybe
bring.
you can send out to all of P and Z if there's any notes or handouts, just to help us
I
with our
can pull those
education.
too, and you've got those too, right, off of,
Sorry, the slide.
did you pull the slides?
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, if we could get those,
Yeah, so that's,
send those out to all of P and Z. And I realized as I looked down this list and was crossing things off, I did bypass accidentally just a discussion on the flute map. So a future land use plan map, and that's the map behind everything that kind of underlies all of our zoning code. And it's time for us to take a look at that again. With that, I think I've asked Stan Tech Evan there to take a look at what do we need to do to make sure we do things in an orderly process there and make sure we do get that scheduled for a future meeting. We'd probably want some input from other city departments just to make sure what they're seeing and get their input as well. So it might be one evening, we do have a couple folks here from other areas that we do invite as guests to give us their feedback, or they could give it to us in writing as well, whatever seems best for them and their schedules, so. Next up, dropping back to we've got just if.
They're getting tired looking at me.
Yeah.
If there's any monthly incoming zoning application
smile, Rylan.
questions. We don't have a monthly zoning report here, but some months we have received that. I know right now we're short staffed, so I'm expecting next month we'll have 2 months worth to look at. Last two I have here are just some other things that have been on our agenda in the past. I haven't heard anything on them for a while, so just kind of FYI, that Gold Rush Crossings, that prior development request, my understanding is that process that had come through, there was a deadline on it and that has expired, so.
and it went back to what it was originally.
So should they come back? it
We have
would
to
just
start all
from
over
the
again,
beginning.
yeah.
And then there is a driveway request
And
that
that's
is an
nice,
older
yeah,
one,
that's-
yeah, so that's just gonna be out here until we hear one way or the other
Okay.
someday. So does anybody have anything else that we need to chit chat about or add to?
Motion to adjourn.
I would say we need to just
Oh.
we just need to remove Gold Rush Crossings and the driveway request.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah,
point
'cause there's
spending any
nothing
more
inside.
time with it till they come back. I mean, if he wants to do something with the driveway, he's still gotta come back and do something with it, so.
Yeah, I mean, he
It'll
owns the
get added
property
back
now,
in.
but it's a right turn lane and how you're dealing with that there is, so.
So anyway, that's all I got. So did you make a motion, did I hear?
Yeah, I made a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second.
Second there? We've got a motion. All in favor of adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, 7:34.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
I appreciate them wanting to